Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Louise, and hello everyone, and welcome to OTF Connects. Thank you for giving of your time to join us tonight. I'm Syria Skirhan, facilitator and coordinator of the OTF Professional Development Project. It's my pleasure to once again welcome Brenda Sherry and Peter Skillen, who will be facilitating tonight's webinar on Twitter 101. Brenda and Peter have quite a following on Twitter, and I know that they have some exciting plans to share with us tonight. So welcome, Brenda and Peter.
Thank you very much, Syria. That's awesome. And I think what we'll do is we'll start with some introductions. So I know you folks have already placed your stars on the map, but if you could let us know in the chat where you're from and what you're teaching in your respective spots, we'll introduce ourselves while you're doing that in the chat. My name is Brenda Sherry. I'm a technology coach from Upper Grand District School Board, so that is the Guelph area plus Orangeville. We go as far south as Aberfoyle down by the 401 and up north as far as Mount Forest. And I guess Shelburne too would be a northern location. And I work as a technology coach there. I've been doing that for 6 years, and prior to that I was 20 years in the classroom. So technology has been kind of a passion of mine since only about 1995. But I've been doing okay, I guess. And I do like social media, so I'm excited that you're here to learn about Twitter tonight. I also teach the AQ courses for Laurier around technology integration, and work with OTF whenever I can to do some of their awesome PD. So that's me. How about you, Peter?
Hello, I'm Peter Skillen. I'm the old guy in the room, probably. I've been teaching since 1970 and started teaching elementary school, and actually got involved with kids and computers in 1977. Bunch of little grade ones. I hooked up to a dumb terminal at that time. We didn't have a microcomputer. Not thinking I'd really like computers and kids because, you know, it was kind of a machine thing, and I was kind of a humanist back in those days, and still am, but those kids really took control of things, and I really loved watching that, and so got involved with computers, then worked in the computers and education department that we started in North York Schools in about 1982, and worked in that department until 2000 when I retired, and then the YMCA of Greater Toronto started a secondary school, and I helped run that for until about 2010. Now I still work with the YMCA of Greater Toronto, but in a different capacity, helping staff use computers more effectively for communicating within our environment. And of course, we're a youth-based organization, so we still have a lot of youth projects. And still do a lot with K-12 education, both face-to-face and online with Ontario Teachers Federation, so I'm thrilled about that. And have been involved with social media, mainly because of my fascination with collaboration and the power of working together. So thank you, Brenda.
Thanks, Peter. So we're going to start tonight by telling our Twitter story. And Peter and I started Twitter about the same time because we've been working with each other for a while now. And I guess we both started Twitter and then made a few tweets and really didn't think much of it, actually, the first time. We thought, this is kind of silly. You know, who wants to know where, we thought it was a little stupid. Who wanted to know we were doing our groceries or going here or there? And we saw it as just a spot where we would post our happenings. However, what happened to us was at an amazing OTF event that Syria had organized, where Will Richardson was coming to speak to the group of teachers about getting connected and learning out loud and that kind of thing using social media. We connected in the room with other educators from Ontario and started to follow them. And this really changed our experience on Twitter. It made it a real go-to space. a way to get connected beyond the face-to-face events that we were meeting folks at, even to stay connected with the people who weren't able to be at these events but are back home at school. And we were just blown away by how generous and helpful educators are. And so we gave it another try, and we have been hooked pretty much ever since. It's one of the ways we communicate and share and learn. We learn so much. And now we also help people who are interested in getting their kids and their classrooms connected in this way. So we really do have a passion for it, and we recognize that there are challenges around it, but we're persevering anyway. We really like it. So this is called our Personal Learning Network, and we love our PLNs. You might hear things referred to as that. And from my PLN last night, I actually got a great graphic to add to our presentation today from my friend Lonnie Ritter-Hall. She's in Ohio, and she's an educator that we worked with in Powerful Learning Practice. We've never met her, face-to-face that is, and yet we've been through courses with Lonnie. She's been our leader in connected coaching that Peter and I did virtually online with other teachers doing some action research. So we really feel like we know Lonnie as a friend and as a colleague. So when she posted this, I looked at the graphic and I thought, this is pretty cool. We have sort of what our desks might have looked like even maybe 6 years ago, 7 years ago, and now, and all these different ways that we can stay connected for learning. So what I'd like you to do in the chat to get us started is, are you using any of these things? And do you have any questions about what they are? Are there any that you don't know? Because I had to look one up. There was one I didn't know. And the other thing is that people use tools in different ways. So we may have the same tool that we use, but we use it for different purposes. So which ones do you guys use? Let's hear in the chat, or even grab the mic if you'd like to share which ones you know already. Okay, A. Wong Imgur was the one I had to look up myself. I had never heard of that one. And that's a sharing tool for photos. So kind of like Flickr, it gives you a gallery of photos that you can share socially. Foursquare, Belinda, is one that locates you using the GPS features of a smartphone when you're traveling around using your location services. So that's what that one is. And Chris, do you mean, I'm not sure what your question was there about what the ones you use in class? Do you want to grab the mic and share your question?
I just wanted to know if you were referring to which ones we use, like in our classrooms, or just in general, if we've used it ever.
Let's go in general. What have you used?
Skype, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook. Those are the ones, pretty much.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I forgot I have a talk button I need to push. Thank you for doing that. And what we would like to do, our goals for tonight are to give you a beginning experience with Twitter. So we're going to include the basics, some things about why you might be using it, how you might get followers, what tweeting is all about. And in order to do that, we really need you to be rather hands-on. So like Peter and I, when we first started, we don't want you to have that experience of being all out there all by yourself on Twitter and not really knowing how to get some value from it. So we are going to take you out to Twitter, and that might have some challenges right there, but I think it would be fun, and we'll certainly have lots of time in the time frame we have. So if things go wrong, and like Louise said before, if you get lost, we'll certainly be able to get you back to on track. One of the things that we would like to know is how many of you are on Macs and how many are on Windows machines, because that's going to help us with organizing your experience here. So how about Okay, you want to put that in the chat. Or how about let's practice with that check mark that we're going to need a lot of. If you're on a Windows machine, could you put a check mark? And if you're on a Mac machine, could you put an X, please? So check mark for Windows and X for Mac.
A red X for Mac just seems heretical, doesn't it?
I thought I would spin that around for you.
Thanks for that. I play in both worlds.
All right, so the 101 we won't worry about. Okay, so most of you are on Windows. Okay. Now, what we would like to suggest, and really, I hope this isn't too beginner for anybody, but I think it's going to really improve your experience. We want you to make sure that we could be doing two things at once. And Peter is definitely much more of a Windows expert than I am these days, so I'm going to let him describe this for many of you, the Windows folks. But I have my Ontario Teachers Federation window open, and I can drag that around on my desktop. So I'm hoping that if you grab yours by the beginning bar, you could actually open a browser window behind that. So that we would like you to have two things open at once. One, the webinar window, and behind that, your browser window. So some of you might use Chrome, or you might use Internet Explorer, or whatever, Firefox, whatever you're using. So could you give me a check mark if you think you can get that going? And Peter, would you share with folks who are Windows if there's anything special they need to do?
So forgive me if it sounds really basic, but I've watched folks struggle with this. A lot of times, well, with Windows, as you know, when you open a window, it often locks to the full size of the screen. So in the upper right-hand corner, there's a little icon that has an image of a rectangle over a rectangle, a window overlapping another window. And if you were to click that, it would detach from a full screen view, and then you can grab that window by the title bar and move it around. So this allows you to place your browser window, sort of offset and a little smaller than your full screen, and your Blackboard Collaborate window offset from that and not filling the whole screen too. So then you can easily move back and forth between your browser and your Blackboard Collaborate window, which you'll need to do this evening. There are other ways to do this that are, in my opinion, more efficient, and it's the kinds of things that we should be teaching kids if they don't already know it, is to use the keystrokes. And so on a Macintosh, if you hold down the Command key and press Tab, it will cycle through your windows. So Command Tab will show one window, Command Tab again will bring your other window to the front, and so forth. On a Windows machine, depending on your version of Windows, you can do the same thing. If you have XP, which may be unlikely these days, it's Alt key and Tab. If it's Windows 7, then I believe it's a little Windows key down by your space bar and Tab, and you can cycle through your windows that way. Or if you don't like using the keystrokes, obviously you can use the taskbar to move between windows. What you don't want to be doing is close your windows with the close button. Minimizing, I'm not a fan of minimizing, so I rarely minimize things. I prefer to Alt-Tab or Command-Tab through my windows. So I hope that's helpful. I hope that works for you. Any questions about that?
Thanks so much, Peter. So if you've got that going, you're okay. You've got our webinar going, and you've got a browser in the background. Can you give us a green check mark again? I just want to get a sense of how many people have that organized. Yay, okay, this is looking good. Diane, it looks like it's having a few sound issues. Okay, so we may be able to help the rest of you get there when we put the first links in. So what I'm going to do now is go to our next slide here, and we're going to talk about what Twitter is, just as a refresher, and just to make sure we're all on the same page for people who might not know much about it. So I'm going to go on a web tour and take you to a little video, and what we'd like you to do is to watch the video when it appears, and then let us know when you're finished to put a green check mark in again. So you may have to click the play button on your screen to get this going. Get started, and then green check mark when you're done, please. Okay, so as you're finishing putting in your green check marks, you guys are awesome at this. This is great. Okay, so what we're going to do next is we're going to get you a Twitter account if you don't already have one, or we're going to get you to log in to your Twitter account. So I'm going to web tour you again, and let's see if I can just put something new in here. Now, we're going to be into...
Who has a Twitter account?
Oh, we could. I think Louise asked that before, but let's ask it again.
Oh,
so
I missed that.
Green check mark if you have a Twitter account, red X if you don't. That'll give us an idea of who we need to keep an eye on too to make sure they get it. Okay, so for many of you, we'll assume you have an account, but you just may not be using it that much. So now is the part where we're, sorry, Peter, go ahead.
Chris is saying he's not sure he wants an account. One of the things with many of the tools in this world is, and I guess in my job and Brenda's job, we get accounts everywhere, and if we don't want them, we just delete them. So it's a good way to check things out. There's nothing that remains there. With Twitter in particular, you can discontinue your account fairly easily, unlike Facebook, which has traditionally been a little more challenging. So, so I just wanted to state that. Getting accounts these days is not as well. It's up to you, but it's not a great concern from my perspective because you can delete your account quite readily.
So that'll be interesting. Maybe if Chris would choose not to have an account, he can check it out for us to see what he can see, and whether he could search by lists and that kind of thing, because you can view a lot of what we're going to talk about anyway without your account likely. Okay, so this is where we're going to be in two places. So if you are getting lost or having trouble getting your account, you're going to want to pop into this webinar window and talk to us, either by the chat or even better, grabbing the mic, because then we'll be able to hear you right away. Sometimes we'll be clicking on that browser window and going other places. And so this is going to be a little bit of a field trip experimentation, but I think it's going to be fun. If you get frustrated, we're not worrying about it. Just let it wash over you. We'll bring you back, and we'll talk about some of the other elements of Twitter. So you don't need to get stressed out about it at all. So I'm going to do another web tour. What I'm going to do is take you to my account. And okay, this is perfect. So you're going to want to go to twitter.com, and when you go there, you're going to see this account page. Hopefully everybody's seeing this. And I'll be logging in a second right here where it says sign in, but if you're new to Twitter, you're going to go through this process of signing up for Twitter with your email and your other information, okay? So that's the first thing to do. There's the link in the chat if you need it. So we're going to let you go off and make an account if you don't already have one. And if you already have one, you're going to log into your Twitter account and then come back to us. So maybe give us a green check mark at that point. Oh, good tip. I used to use B. Sherry, and I switched it to Brenda Sherry because on Twitter you really do want to be found. Good point, Peter. So if you create a name that's really confusing, people won't be able to find you. But you can change that later, just so you know. So if you feel safer making something a little different now, you could change it later. Louise, we will have a lot of these paused points here, so I'm not sure if you want to stop the recording or how you want to handle that.
I could do that if you guys help prompt me to cue it back up again as soon as I guess as soon as you say, all right, everyone, come on back, then I can resume it. Does that sound like a plan?
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
Brenda, I'm thinking that we should address some of these questions as they come up. And obviously while folks are, sorry Louise, obviously while folks are off, getting their accounts and so forth, we can still carry on the discussion here because you're going to hear it if you need to. So this is a dilemma, Jim, that a lot of folks have, and school administrators often have it more than teachers, because school administrators often feel they have more of a reputation to protect or that kind of thing. But many of us do feel that if we're using this for professional purposes, like I'm Peter Skillen, and I'm Peter Skillen in my personal life, and I'm Peter Skillen in my professional life. And as Peter Skillen, most of my stuff on social media, both in Twitter, Facebook, and wherever, it's mostly professional work that I'm doing there. Do I have some do I have some family stuff out there? I have some, but I don't have much. I don't do much idle chit-chat out there. Any chat that I do, whether it's on Twitter or in Facebook, is okay. I'm not doing bad things. I'm not saying bad things. If I wanted to do that, then I'd probably get myself some alias account somehow and do that. But that's not what I want to do publicly. So I'm happy to be Peter Skillen, and what I do in terms of because I work for the YMCA, I put in a disclaimer on all my social media sites saying that ideas, thoughts, and posts do not represent, I forget the exact phrasing, but do not necessarily represent those of my employer, that kind of thing. So there's that level of disclaimer. In terms of students, Brenda, maybe you want to address that one. I haven't had as a problem. Students haven't particularly followed me, and if they do, like I say, they're going to see my ideas, but those are ideas that I state in front of students anyway, so it doesn't really matter for me personally. So it's a personal choice.
So I think I do think Jim was a teacher librarian. Is that right, Jim? You could just write that in the chat. Yeah, I think what happens most of the time is people don't follow their students. So if a student were to follow you, oh, music teacher, right. If a student were to follow you, then they would see your public tweets. I wouldn't follow them back. That's just my policy around students. I wouldn't follow students on Facebook or Twitter. And you would have an option to block students as well, and they wouldn't see that. They wouldn't have that information that you did that to them. Some folks have their teaching, like their professional Twitter account, and then they have one that is around the classroom, and then they allow students to follow that one, and parents, actually. There's a lot of people that I'm hearing about where parents, especially of younger students, are really happy to get little tweets about what they should be asking kids about, or their students about, their children, sorry, in the evenings, for example. One of our colleagues, Aviva from Hamilton, she calls it table talk, like dinner table talk, and she'll tweet something out. Ask your son or daughter about something that they did at school today, and they just get that little notification. So how do you block someone, Lorna? when you click on their name, you would have options to do that. So I think everybody can see here, I've got Derek, a grade 5 teacher. So I'm going to click on his name. And what Louise was saying earlier is that he has a profile picture here. You would have a generic egg identifying you if you're a new person to Twitter. So it's best to put something up there to identify yourself, a symbol or a picture, so that people know you're a legitimate person on Twitter. And then it always helps also to have a profile description that relates to you as a teacher. And we're going to cover that later on. We're just getting you started here. And then I can click this in twitter.com. I can click user actions, and here's my list. So I could send a direct message to this guy if I was following him. Again, we'll cover that later, but there's block. Okay? Go ahead, Louise.
Sorry, Brenda. I just wanted to say, would you like to drop your Twitter page into the web tour? Because we're still on twitter.com, and it is the sign-in sheet. And so we're not seeing your page. Is that what you had hoped we would be seeing?
Gotcha. Hang on a second. So I'll add my name to the end of that URL. So that's my Twitter address. Let's try it again. Let me know when you see mine.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead. A1, do you have a question? Okay, she's just indicating that she's got her Twitter account. All right. So what we would like you to do, you're seeing my page now. Yours will, let's see if we're waiting on anybody else. I think Lorna, Linda's got hers. Lorna's probably still working on hers. So we'll just give people another minute to get their accounts made, and then we'll continue.
Brenda, do you know about that? As Chris had asked to build a timeline.
Yeah, I just saw that. So one of the issues around us is that we've been on Twitter for a few years now. So we won't know what the new things are that they offer you when you first join. So I'm assuming that's kind of like what they do in Facebook. Is there an option to do that yes or no kind of thing, Chris?
Because you'll be able to change defaults later, Chris. So just take the basic package if you like. I don't know.
Can you give that a quick Google and find out, Peter, and see what we come up with?
Yep.
Okay, I'm seeing a lot of green check marks now, and I know that some of you already have accounts. So I think we can go ahead and talk about the next step. I'm going to clear that. There we go. We've got Diane. Okay. Doesn't look like you can opt out. Okay.
Yes, definitely.
So,
yes, set up your timeline. Just agree, because it's basically it's basically the home stream of all the tweets from all the people you will be following, and that's pretty standard. That's just a standard issue thing. They're just calling it a timeline these days.
All right, so here we are on my Twitter page. Up here on the top left, you'll see I'm in my home. So that means I'm seeing tweets for everyone that I follow. Okay, so you can see they're coming in pretty fast. So I just refreshed, there were 14 new ones, and then a couple seconds later, there's 20 new ones there. So this gives you some information about me, how many tweets I've made. Whew, that's a lot. How many people are following me and how many followers I have. Generally, if you follow me, I follow you back. Peter says, get a life. Yeah. And, you know, you can get a little addicted to some of the social media stuff, so you have to be careful and be balanced and healthy about your approach to social media. You will see quite quickly this who to follow box down here. This is very clever. What they'll do is they'll look at who you're connected with and then find people who are also connected and then sort of suggest people to you. So for example, this is Kathy Beach. She's an educator from sort of out Kingston or Belleville way. So she obviously follows this guy, and so they're suggesting that, you know, I might want to also follow him. And that's usually kind of good advice. And so if you're on Gmail, there's all kinds of ways they're connecting you through your email, etc., and finding people that you'd like to follow. Down here are trends. So
just a word of caution, Brenda. People will not see unless they're scrolling their page, right? As you scroll your page, it's not going to replicate on their screen.
Good reminder. Thank you.
And in fact, we're just looking at your own tweet list, not your timeline. So we see a list of all your tweets right now, Brenda.
Well, you see it from my home, right? The top left, not me.
We don't see that at all. What we see are your tweets. We don't see your home at all.
Are you seeing that then? So what's the top tweet?
Who knew I'd have such a funny kid?
Okay. I've now switched to what you're seeing. Okay, I'm on my me. I was on my home tab, so I was seeing everything. Okay, so this is good.
Because you're logged in. Because you're logged in, that's what you're going to see. Other people are going to see.
Yeah, right. Okay. All right, good. This is why I love to have a second computer set up to see what you guys are seeing, and mine is not available right now. So, okay, so there I am, and there's my profile. So I tell people right away that I'm a K-12 educator. I link to my website. It shows the videos and photos I might have. If you scroll down a little bit, you'll see my who to follow list. And you'll see something called trends. And those are sort of hashtags that people are using. We'll get to that. Okay? Yeah, I am still a learner, that's for sure. And, you know, I really kind of think of Twitter like a river. It's going to constantly be going by, updated all the time. And I can't always spend the time there. So I dip in when I can, and I don't worry about seeing everything that goes by. Sometimes you'll miss things, and that's okay. So what we need you to do is make a tweet. So I was hoping you'd be seeing that other page, but let's see. There we go. So if you look at the top right-hand corner of my page, and you might have to scroll a little to the right, I've got a little, you know, pen there with a feather on it, like an ink pen with a feather. And
nope.
You don't see that?
We won't see it because we're looking at your page that's you're signed in on. We're not signed in on it. So they have to go to their twitter.com page to see it. It's weird, eh?
Yeah.
Or maybe refresh your page.
Let me try that.
I'm just not sure.
Oh, I wonder how I do that inside here. Okay, just hit enter maybe. Let's see what happens. Oh, let's try this. Does that help? I put my follow me button on. I don't know if that does anything.
No. Maybe I'm going to back out of here.
And go back to the whiteboard?
Yeah, I think we need to send folks off in a second, so maybe you just want to move to that. But.
Okay, so you're going to go to your account, and we need you to make a tweet. So I wish I could be showing you where you do that, but you're looking for something called Compose Tweet. And in that, you're going to type your, we're going to give you a tag to use. Go ahead, whoever that was.
It's me, Brenda. Brenda, have you ever used the screenshot tool in Blackboard? You might find that really helpful right now. If we flip back to the whiteboard, okay, I'm going to just click to create a new page. Brenda, you can click the little camera icon that's on the tool strip. You could try application sharing, but I'm worried about people's bandwidth tonight and that they might start dropping like flies. Although this is much clearer. Folks, give us a green check mark if you see, basically it's Brenda's desktop. But Brenda, whatever, you've got a small box on top. Up there, it's gone now. Okay, so we see Brenda's. Okay, Brenda, you may not want to move around too much. So far it seems to be working okay, except for a Wong. All right, go ahead and continue talking, but your mic's off.
All right, I got it on. So I'm going to switch to me. Actually, I'm on my home. I can tweet from either my home page or me, but I'll go back to me because that's what you were looking at before. It's going to refresh in a second. Okay, moving it over. So at my top right-hand corner, I have my Compose a Tweet. And I'm going to click on that. And what I want you guys to do is to type a tweet. You won't have a lot of followers right now possibly, so not too many people are going to see it. And we want to make sure that we see it. So we're going to ask you to type in #OTF101 because that's the name of the workshop. And we're going to be able to find you because you've typed that. So we need you to do that. And then you're going to just say hello to us. And I'm going to say hello everyone in the webinar. And I'm going to tweet. If you want to add a photo, you can, but you don't need to right now. So I'm going to do that tweet. And as you can see on my tweet timeline there, I've made that tweet. Okay, and we're gonna capture those tweets. So we're going to give you a few minutes to go ahead and make that tweet, and we'll see who we can get going doing that. So Louise, what do you think? Should I keep sharing at this point?
Well, A. Wong is definitely experiencing some issues related to that. While people are off doing that, if you want to exit and try the screenshot tool, you may find that it actually will give you an opportunity to just drop pictures of your screenshots of what you want to show people, and then you can actually use the pointer tool and stuff like that to direct people around.
Okay, so I've now got a really small box, right? So do I go to application, stop sharing?
Yep, and then we'll click back to whiteboard. Okay, it started sharing again. Nope. See on the whiteboard tool strip, the second from the bottom is a little camera icon. You click on that camera, and it's going to switch to your desktop view, and it's going to give you an adjustable box that you can size to just take a screenshot of exactly what you want it to take a screenshot of.
Oh, okay.
And then you're going to click your OK button. It's kind of cool once you get the hang of it. So if you go up and grab one of the corners.
I don't want that, actually. I'm not sure. I don't need it at this point, maybe.
Possibly not, if you want to just grab the feed. How's everybody doing?
Okay, we've got a few of them. So I'm just going to add them to my list.
So please let us know in the chat or grab the mic if you're having difficulty tweeting, because we'll figure this out. Twitter is one of these very strange places. It's hard to really understand, but please feel free to do that and start tweeting over, because I'm following the chat. I'm following to see who's using the hashtag, because if you use the hashtag OTF101, I'll definitely see, or we'll definitely see your tweets. Okay, how do you get back to Twitter? So Annabelle, are you in your browser? You can go to twitter.com and it should show up for you. Okay, let me know, Annabelle, if that's working for you.
Okay, it's looking good. We're seeing people arrive here. Seeing some tweets come up. Yo Teach. Uh-oh. Did you see that from Yo Teach, Peter?
No, please, anybody, do not post the score of the game. Okay? So I'm just saying. I don't know. I saw Yo Teach ask if, I don't know, did they post the score? Yes, no?
No, they did not. They did not. You're okay. So I'm seeing Yo Teach. I'm seeing our other ones. Now, are we going to capture those and put them somewhere in the chat, or people have already done that? The list is not going to be as convenient as we thought. Can you guys still hear me? I feel like my audio is dying.
I can still hear you.
Oh, phew. Okay. So how many have we got? 1, 2. Ivana, we've got Lion T. Okay. So you want to follow all these people who are, I'm going to follow you guys right now. I better show people how to do that. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to application share again. If that's okay, Louise?
Yep. I was just going to say that people are asking, you mentioned hashtag, and we're using a hashtag, but not everyone knows what a hashtag is yet.
Yes, I know. The problem with this is, where do you do things? What order do you do things?
We talked a lot about where to do it, and we couldn't really do it up front because it's already terribly loaded, so we have to ask people just to trust us with the hashtag till we get to it.
Okay, are you guys seeing my screen now?
Yes. Just don't scroll too much once you get to a spot where you want to be.
Okay. So what I've done is I have this search window right at the top, and I put in hashtag, which is a number, any type of naming system on Twitter with a number sign at the beginning is called a hashtag. And it lets you search, kind of like filtering things. So when I put hashtag OTF101 in there, and you can go ahead and do this on your page too in a second, then I get a list of anybody who's put the OTF hashtag in that we just made up. Hashtags can just be made up by anybody who decides that a group will use that hashtag. So I'm going to refresh here. Sorry, it'll make your screen go a little wonky. Okay, so I'm going to now want to follow you guys. So there's Michael Simon. I know I'm already following Peter. So I'm going to click on his, where he's used the hashtag. And now, great, he's got his nice profile picture there. He's got his description. And I'm going to click follow and follow him. Okay, so you probably want to actually search OTF 101 and follow us. Okay, I'm going to follow Yo Teach. There we go. You're following me already. Husband, he is following me. Okay. And I'm following. So I'm going to get Lorna next. Follow Lorna from Dryden. Awesome. Great. So nice to see you guys, because we don't get a chance to see your faces when we're on here. Becoming a geek. Yes, that's nice. Ms. Lion. Okay, already following. Debbie. Follow you. Oh, you got Lorna. All right. Oh. Yes, you could search, I think you could go into twitter.com and search OTF 101 if you weren't a Twitter account holder, Chris. That's a good question. So even if you had students and you decided on a hashtag that you would use for a classroom, for example, students could probably follow that grouping without, they just wouldn't be contacting people within it, is my understanding. And you know, some people, and we've met up with these folks at some of the OTF conferences, some people choose not to follow anyone. They get their Twitter account and all they do is search by those hashtags that identify groups of people. They don't follow individuals. So there's really a lot of flexibility about how you use it. Okay, so I think a lot of us have made a first tweet, so that's great. I'm going to stop sharing. I can remember how to do that again. I have to go back here, pull up my window.
You just hit the whiteboard. Yeah.
Yeah, it hides, like it collapses. Okay, and there is a screenshot. Okay, so let's talk about some of the tweets that we see on the screen now. And you're going to look for, I see Lorna's question about resetting a password. You're going to look for a little gear icon on your profile page, and you're going to go to settings, and then that should get you to any kind of password information. You could also edit your profile there, change your password, your picture, and that kind of thing. Okay, so have a look at the screen that is on the board now. And what we'd like you to do is just kind of do sort of a noticing and wondering here. What do you notice about some of the tweets, and what are you wondering about? What questions you might have? And put them in the chat or grab the mic, please. So just take a minute to have a look. Yay, Linda, you're getting some followers. Yes, we should all be following you by now. Hopefully some people, OTFPD is following you. And hopefully we have followed you. I'm going to look for your Twitter name in my chat, see if it's here. I think I should be following you too. And Peter should be following you.
Brenda, are you possibly talking to yourself?
Yes, I was talking to myself. Thank you, Louise. I love you. You really helped me. And I'm glad you can read my mind, too. Makes me kind of wonder if you're actually right here with me in my room, but I know you're not. Okay, so let's have a look here at this page. And I was just asking you to, if there's anything you notice or wonder. Yeah, there we go. We got some good questions coming up from Elizabeth here. So yes, we're going to start A1 talking about how we use it in education. So the first guy on the page here is Colin Harris. He's an Apple Distinguished Educator, which is why he has the little apple and the ADE symbol beside his name. His Twitter name is actually Digital Native. He's a teacher at York Region District School Board. And he's got a sentence there to let you know what he's talking about, and he puts a Google link in. So this is one of the biggest ways you will use this in education, is that educators will be sharing things like links to articles, to websites they find fascinating, and to other things on the web. Sherry, a bit.ly is a shortened link. So you're looking at Peter Pappas's tweet there, and he's a great guy to follow. He's from the States, and he does a lot of great postings about literacy and history. What he's done is he, or Twitter, has shortened a big long link, URL link, and made it into a smaller link, because remembering you only get 140 characters in a tweet, so you want your links to look as short as possible. Colin has used goo.go, which is one I've used a lot too. I use bit.ly as well. If you just go goo.go.com, you get to, you can put in your long links and make them shorter for Twitter. But also we use TweetDeck and Hootsuite, and that'll do the the shortening for you. We're going to show you that later. So when Colin sends out that tweet, that's going to all his followers, okay? If you look at the one that Peter Pappas wrote, he's saying, check out how I'm using @thebookrees reveal widget for historic comparison. So he's included a link. He's included some of those hashtags that we were using. So people who filter their tweets by one of those or search by ed tech, for example, will see that tweet. Also, whenever you put an @ symbol in front of something, it's kind of like saying, hey, Peter Skillen, and you want to make sure that Peter will see this in his timeline. So it directs a tweet towards someone in a more direct way, but still the entire all the people that you're following see it. It's not private in any way, okay? So Roland is a resource teacher from Waterloo. He's atting the TED program, and he's putting a hashtag in called TED EdChat, and that's because Waterloo is doing on May 20th, they're having a TEDx event, and they're getting ready for that, so he's starting to post that way. Let's see, why did I capture?
So just for clarification, in case people don't know, anything you tweet really only gets seen by the people who follow you.
Right.
Okay? Unless you what we call @them, put that @ before somebody's name, or use a hashtag. If you use a hashtag, people do not have to be following you to see it. They just need to be filtering or having a stream set up in their Twitter tool, twitter.com or Hootsuite or TweetDeck, to see all the tweets from those hashtags. It's a great place to find new followers if you have a hashtag like EdTech or Secondary School Chat, SS Chat, because then you can see people who are saying interesting things, sharing interesting resources. Click their name, click follow, then you're following them. Their stuff will come into your timeline, and they will likely follow you back.
Yeah, that's a good, thank you. That's good clarification. And Louise adds, it's kind of like a channel. Yeah. @ goes to the person, Chris, and the hashtag is more like a group. People are filtering it, but @ goes to the person. So when you look at the one Kevin McCarthy, he was sharing that video about Kevin Spacey's new movie, and I favorited that. So if you see that little gold star at the bottom of my Twitter box, that means it's kind of like a like. I've given it a like. You know, I like that tweet, so I favorite it. And that person, Kevin McCarthy, will know if they have their settings chosen that way. They'll get an email that says, I favorited their tweet if they want. They can turn that on or off. But yeah. So the name is more of a direct notification. It's like me saying, hey, Louise, because I know you're going to hear it in the noise of the Twitter sphere kind of thing. So that's the way I look at it, okay? Any other questions about using @? So when you would just type your tweet if you wanted all your followers to see it, and if you wanted to make sure that someone actually saw the tweet, you would put their name in it, okay? And it's still public. The next thing to know is that there are things called retweets. Those are RT. A modified tweet is an MT, and then there's favoriting, which I just talked about with the little star. It's how you add a favorite. People have changed their use of favoriting. I used to use it because I wanted to keep track of sort of special tweets that I wanted to go back to, and a lot of people are using it more like a Facebook like. When you like something, you just give it a little favorite. How do you follow a hashtag? Yeah, so Elizabeth, you search it, and that will show you all the tweets that have recently come up. We're going to show you, and you can save your list of searches that Peter mentioned. We're going to show you a tool that we use in order to capture a column so that you can see people's updates day to day when you search by a hashtag. So let's see if there's anything new in these ones. So, Peter, can you explain that one in the top right-hand corner? So it's a modified tweet. What does that mean?
Okay, so first of all, retweet, let's just clarify that. When you see something you like and you want to share it with people who follow you, you just click the retweet button on that tweet. You'll see it when you hover over it. There's an option to retweet. There's an advantage to that. The person who wrote that initially is going to be flattered and thrilled that you are sharing it and will likely follow you. It's one way to build followers. It also shows respect for your community, and this is a community. So that's the RT. The modified tweet, sometimes because you only have 140 characters, when you start retweeting, they've already filled up their 140 characters. Now you're throwing in 2 more characters with the RT, a space, their @ and their name. So you might have to change some of their words in there in order to make it fit. So you modify the tweet. You might change the word "and" to the ampersand. You might drop out a word here and there just to modify the tweet to make it fit. Retweet is kind of like forwarding. Yes, it is like forwarding an email, except publicly, to all the people who follow you. Because if somebody with 100 followers who's a really great educator, is retweeted by somebody who's got 4,000 followers, then it's beneficial to that person and that person's sharing of information. Some people get wrapped up in the ego trip of it, but let's face it, it is really beneficial if that person who doesn't have the followers gets something shared to a larger group of educators, because the purpose is to help the education field in general. Brenda, I'm not sure we're going to have time actually for Hootsuite and TweetDeck, so you might have to mention it real fast, kind of thing.
Yeah, we were going to send you out to be doing this, but I think we will mention it really fast. So the way that we generally follow people, other than meeting them face to face and they tell us their Twitter name, is that when you go to someone's profile and for example, what you're looking at on the screen there is my profile. You could follow other people a couple of different ways. If you hovered where it says the people I'm following, so if you hovered over that 3,536, you would be able to click on a whole list of the people I follow, or people who are following, people I'm following. And you could browse through that, and you could decide that you might like to follow some of the people I'm following. Okay, that's one way to do it. You could also, where the big blue arrow is, you could click on someone who sends a tweet that ends up in your timeline, and you could, for example, Susan Connolly, you could just click on her, and you could get that profile picture and decide to follow her. You could also, in your who to follow space, you might get recommendations there, and you could click on them first. You don't have to follow them right away, and get more information about them. So I did that on the next slide, and what we found was I didn't know what ACOSO was when I saw it on my side, so I opened it up, and it turns out it's guidance educators. So if I was a guidance teacher or in career education, I might want to follow them. I could have done that. I could also look at other people that are following them. They would probably have a similar interest in that for me, and decide. I thought not. That's probably not one that's going to suit me. Susan Connolly, however, she follows me already. She's an educator. She's integrating world history and technology, 21st century skills. She's from New Hampshire. I found that out. And also I noticed here that other people that I like their work on Twitter. They share valuable things like Sue Waters or Kevin Honeycutt, Kathy Perrette, and 50 other people are connected with Susan and myself. So I think maybe she would be a good person to put in my network. So I can click follow. Another thing is I see that she is tweeting pretty regularly. So that's something that might maybe make me choose to follow her. And so we want to talk just briefly about, often you don't stay in twitter.com very long because you want to use some other third-party apps. So one of them that you might want to install on your computer or your phone as an app is TweetDeck, and this lets you keep columns. So if you were, for example, a teacher and you decided you'd want to blog with another classroom, you could keep a column here that where you could look at the tweets from that other classroom. And also, I use this in education when you know a conference is going on. They will usually have a hashtag, and I can create a column. You can see you can make searches here on the side, and I'll follow a conference when I'm not even there. I'll see that people are tweeting links and that kind of thing. Okay. You can also schedule your tweets. Yeah, do you want to show that in screen share, Peter, or?
Sure, let me quickly try that. Oh, yeah, right. No, it's just hung up on me there, so it's not actually sharing my screen. Nope, I guess I don't want to.
Okay.
I think I'll get.
The other thing to know about Twitter is if someone is following you, you can have a direct message to them. And so that will end up in their email box and no one else will see it. So it's more private than saying at to somebody, because everybody that follows you will see when you at someone. But they have to be following you back for you to be able to DM them. You can't just DM anybody. You can also schedule your tweets. So if you wanted to share something out a couple of times a week from your classroom, for example, you could schedule that on your relaxing time and then send it out to parents. Excuse me. These tools that you'll use to make Twitter a better experience are available on phones, on every kind of computer. Hootsuite is another common one. Echo Phone is one I like for my iPad. Hashtags. Now, when you're using Twitter for your own learning, you'll want to find out which groups of people get together, and they often have chats on Twitter at a certain scheduled time. So Monday night at 8 there might be the social studies chat. And one way to find out those, other than seeing them pass by your timeline, is to use something called twubs.com. And that's a site where you can post a search and you can post a search for something like social studies or blogging or environmental ed, that kind of thing, and up will come some hashtags and that you can start to follow. Yeah, that's one thing I love about Hootsuite, what Louise has mentioned there. I can tweet to my LinkedIn, my Facebook, and my Twitter, and I think Google+. I think you can add Google+ now, I'm not sure. But that is one thing that makes it very helpful. Okay, before we go, though, I want to talk about one thing, because if you look at this set of hashtags, there is something called Comments for Kids that I think is one that you will all like to know about. And if you were doing any work like creating websites with your students or having your students create blogs, we use a hashtag called Comments for Kids with the number 4. And when you post something, that a lot of educators follow that. They keep that as a comment, and then they'll get their students posting comments and reading your students' things. Because despite the fact that some people sort of have this fear of online spaces, when you are trying to create a website or a blog with students, it's very hard to get people to read your blog. It's challenging. So especially when we often keep them unlisted for privacy reasons. So this way you know that you've got this collection of educators that are there, and they will they will post, or they'll have their students post to you. So that's a great way to do it. So this conversation tonight was designed to just get you started. It's a Twitter 101. I know, A. Wong, you were asking a lot about using Twitter for education. I would suggest that you really try to get your Hootsuite or your TweetDeck set up. And you start to follow some people first. And then you will see what other educators are sharing, the kinds of projects they're involved with, and you'll have some ideas of how to use Twitter for your own purposes. Mostly it's for sharing or getting information. So if you have a question, it's valuable. There are other people who are using it for literacy in secondary, and I'll share a bit after Peter has his question or comment.
So one of the ways I've used it in the classroom, and this was secondary, but I would do it at late elementary. Well, I do it in elementary as well. I would just leave my TweetDeck or my Hootsuite running with all my columns of Twitter showing there. And I would leave it projected for a good part of each and every class for a couple of reasons. One, it really models the fact that, because people say kids are great with computers. Kids are great with socializing on computers for the most part. They're great. Many kids are great with social media, but they don't use it for cognitive gain necessarily. So when they see my Twitter feed running there, and then we're discussing some an interest in project-based learning initiative, where I don't know the answers to things, I can very quickly jump to TweetDeck or to Twitter and pop a message out asking the question that has arisen, and then see what kinds of responses come in. And this really models for kids sort of this new era of looking to community for pointers to answers. So it's not just for socializing; it's for cognitive and cognitive gain through collaboration. So that's an extremely useful one for me.
And I'm just looking at Jim's question about the safest way to get students involved. I would create an account for your class that your students can post to. It depends on what grade levels you're working with. So for example, Twitter wasn't around when I was blogging with my grade 2s, but I had an account for the blog, and when they posted, they were logged in under my login, and I okayed the post before it went public. So they could comment from anywhere, but I had that level of control. There is something called group tweet, where you can have multiple people on the same Twitter account, and there is a fee for that, but they do have education pricing. So we're actually looking into that in my board for our program department, because we would like to, lots of people at our board are now on Twitter, and we'd like to get the word out about things we're doing, but we would like it to be a shared kind of posting. So, you know, sharing your password with students around a class account is a little bit of a risk, because they'll be able to post things. I mean, you can delete them from Twitter, but once it's out there, it's out there. So if they had their own accounts, again, they could follow you. They could follow the class account as well, Jim. And then if you got them in the habit of using a hashtag, you wouldn't have